In this tutorial, I'll show you some techniques that I use to rapidly discover, curate, and integrate e-learning content. I'll be demonstrating that into Moodle, but these techniques work equally well on other platforms, or indeed into traditional, say, print-based materials, PowerPoint presentations, etc. So the first piece is the discovery piece. How do you find the content? And sometimes it's as simple as turning to Google and doing some keyword searches. So let's imagine that I'm working with a childcare teacher. They need to produce some learning content around emergency first aid in a childcare setting. So one topic may be about administering CPR to a child. So I'll start really scattergun with this. I'll do some broad searching to start to discover some of that content, but I make no value judgment at this point. What indeed I'm going to do is to open a whole series of those links and then pass through to do a curation piece afterwards. So this is a really rapid process. What I do is to open as much content as I can. And the way I do that is to hold down, now I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit the Command key, but it works for with the Control key on Windows, and click on each link which is interesting to me. And what you might notice is that those links are opening in background tabs sitting across the top of my browser bar. So this is a really rapid process. I'm making no assessment of quality at this point. All I'm doing is a harvesting piece, a gather piece, to make sure that I've got some stuff to curate down. I'll often turn to the video section and do the same process, making selections as I go. And so very rapidly, I can generate 20 or 30 tabs that now I can start to work through and make that first pass value judgment on. What I'm in essence trying to do is to thin the weeds to a point where I've got a curated set that I can then discuss with my subject matter expert. So let's start that process. I move to the first tab. I can make a really quick assessment of whether it's good quality or not. If it's not, I'll simply close the tab. And so again, I use keyboard shortcuts heavily for this. Command W on a Mac, Control W on a Windows machine, close that tab, move on. So you can see how quick this can be. Okay, that one I'm interested in retaining. And you can see then this is a really rapid process of working through the tabs that you've opened up, seeing whether they're fit for purpose, and moving on. When it comes to some of the video material, so I'm just going to close some of these ones down. The other thing I find quite often is that because I was pretty crass in my first search, I didn't really define that very, very closely. But these up next videos can be really quite helpful because they help you to be much more precise. So, and in fact, here's a video that looks really interesting to me. So I'll often kind of on the fly be making assessments about what I see, not only as the primary video, but other videos along the side. So you can usually, when you've done this work for any period of time, make assessments within the first few moments of its quality. Is it well presented? Is it on topic? Does it meet the training package? Those things become pretty evident relatively quickly. You don't often have to watch the whole video. And in fact, this video is particularly good because it is an Australian presenter. She's got a very clear way of speaking. So I think that that will be of good high quality to pass by my subject matter expert. And so it goes. So you can see then with this process, you can rapidly discover and curate content that you can then discuss with the SME. So once you've got yourself to a point where you've got a set of open tabs that you've already done that curation piece on, the next bit is, well, what do you do next? How do you get that out of your browser and onto theirs? So the first thing is to kind of harvest all of those links. I've got about 8 links open now, and I need to rapidly get them from my computer to somewhere else. And I've got a really useful browser extension for that. It's this one here. It is called Copy All URLs to Clipboard. And in essence, what you can do is have multiple tabs open, as I have. Select the first of those tabs, holding the Shift key, select the last of them. So I've now made a multiple selection. And then if I click on this, basically it's copied those URLs to the clipboard. So I can now jump over maybe to my email application, paste those and send them off to the SME. Or if, as I am doing, I'm in Moodle, I can actually start to integrate these directly in. So for instance, if I want to add them to this section of content, remember they're in my Clipboard browser, I can just paste them there are all of those links. They've just been put straight in. If I save those changes now, the SME can be viewing that content on screen. And the nice thing about Moodle is that if it sees a video link, it will actually embed that straight onto the page. So you'll notice indeed, we've actually got each one of those videos displaying linearly down the page. So it's already started to construct the learning, which is quite nice. Okay, so we've now discovered some content, we've discovered some videos. You often want to enrich your learning content with images, but you need to do that in a really mindful way that you're not in breach of copyright. So by far my very favourite place on the web for digital images, in fact one of my very favourite places overall, is Unsplash. Unsplash has extraordinarily beautiful images contributed by professional photographic artists. You can see how lovely these are and how useful they could be in a whole range of contexts. And what's really important about this particular resource is the licensing. All photos published on Unsplash can be used for free. You can use them for commercial and non-commercial purposes. You do not need to ask permission or provide credit to the photographer, although it is appreciated. So in essence, what they're doing is they're giving you the rights to these images. And we could, with the all good conscience, use these images in any way we like. However, there's still some obligation to us. I will always cite an image, and I'll do that for one of two reasons. Firstly, it's good etiquette. You're really acknowledging the great hard work of the artist who took that photo for you. But importantly, you're also protecting yourself against potential challenges of copyright. So imagine, for example, an auditor is viewing your content, they see an image and they see that it is uncited. They have no way of knowing whether that image is in breach of copyright or not. And so they'll often assume that it's copyright infringing. So you want to protect against that. And the very best way is to properly cite your images. So let's go through an exercise. We might be talking, we want some child images to enrich our content about child CPR. So I'm going to do a quick search. We can find an image that's appropriate to our purposes. Perhaps it's this one. We can have that image on screen, preview it, and if we want to use that image, we can hit the download button, which will download that to our computer. So that's now available in my downloads folder. And importantly here, it's also provided us the proper citation that we can copy and paste back into our resource to ensure that we're also meeting that copyright obligation. So what I've got for you, and I'll share the links to this along with the recording, is I've created a whole lot of Unsplash images into various collections, which I use all the time. Perhaps the most useful of these is my study collection. Amongst here are images which can be used in a whole range of disciplines and contexts, but can generally enrich your e-learning content. Of course, these images aren't mine. All I've done is to collect and curate the images that have been contributed by the Unsplash photographers. So sticking to the theme of Unsplash, there's also another useful browser extension which I have on all the time, which is called Unsplash Instant. In essence, what it does is every time you create a new tab in your browser, it gives you a new random image. New tab, new image. And so every time I open up in my browser, I'm presented a new image. And if that image is useful to me, it's a very simple process of hitting the download button and I have that and it's available to me. Or if I want, I can click on the little camera icon and I'm taken to that image as it's displayed on the Unsplash collection. A really, really handy little resource. Let me show you some of the other browser extensions I think are worthwhile. And I'm going to do this by demonstration back in my Moodle course. What is really important, particularly as we do modern design, is we ensure that our content is viewable to people on a range of devices and screen sizes. And this is where the Emmitt Review browser plugin can be really useful. It looks like this, and when you click on it, it will take your current page and it will display that page as shown on a range of different screen sizes and devices. This is fully configurable by you. There's a drop-down menu when you can choose your devices, but for me, I have it displayed on a mobile device, on an iPad in landscape mode, iPad in portrait mode, and desktop browser. And so therefore you can do side-by-side comparisons. And to this point, you can see the effect that things like your Moodle theme have on the layout and design of content. In this recording, I'm using a theme called Snap, which is excellent for this. It's fully adaptable, and you'll notice that on smaller format devices, the left-hand menu collapses out of view and is displayed in a little hamburger menu down at the lower right, which is exactly positioned where your thumb would be if you're doing this from your phone, for instance. Another handy little plugin that really corrects for my mistakes is one called Grammarly. And it sort of sits there and runs in the background. And anytime that you're editing content, whether it's in Moodle or anywhere on the web where you've got one of these text entry fields, is effectively it's coming along and doing spelling grammar check as you type. So I'll make some deliberate mistakes. So what you'll notice here is that Grammarly has highlighted two words. The first of these is a spelling error. So it's saying that that should be spelled as QUICK, which is correct. So I can just click on that word and it will be swapped out. It also does grammar or context correction. So you'll notice that it thinks that this is the wrong word usage within the context of this sentence, which is fairly sophisticated and gives me an alternative word. So that really, again, is kind of safeguard my own errors as I'm authoring content. So that's really a very brief snapshot into the process of discovery, content curation, integration, creation. Of course, this is far from a finished product. There's still that really important piece, that instructional design piece where you'd work with a subject matter expert, refine the curated content, build the important context around that, the connective tissue, if you like, that connects the content to a set of activities and gives a purpose for the learning. But it's often really important to be able to do some of that preparative work, that information harvesting and gathering work, before you sit down with your subject matter expert so you can be really precise with your time usage after that. I hope that's useful to you.